All right. So again, this is, are you getting what you want from are you running your business or is it running from you? And again, what my goal, my passion is working with entrepreneurs and helping them get more of what they want from their businesses. And so that's what really I'm going to be focusing on here today. So really, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I got to say, this is one of the most well-run, well-organized shows, and probably the biggest shows that I get to have the opportunity to speak at. So really grateful to be here. So I've got one crazy request. I'd like for you to turn to the person next to you or closest to you, and I'd just like you to shake their hands and I'd like you to say goodbye. Go ahead, just do it. Say goodbye. Goodbye. Because if I do my job this morning, okay, if I do my job this morning, you're going to walk out this door a different person than you are walking in. Okay. So my two goals are to get you to think about your business in a completely different way. Okay? And then my second goal is to give you some real practical tools that literally you can go back to the office on Monday or whenever you're going to go back, and you can start using these tools in your business to help your business run better and get more of what you want. So what I'd like for you to do is in the handout, so turn into the very first page, you'll see there's a notes page. We're going to just turn this into a workshop. Might as well, right? So take any kind of writing utensil you've got, and I'd just like for you to think about 5-10 years out, zoom forward 10 years, and write down that one big goal, that one big thing that you want from your business 10 short years from now. Just go ahead and write it down right here in this notes page. And we're going to come back to that. But that's going to help focus our work here together today, answering that one big question. 10 years from now, what's that one big goal you have from your business? So just to give you a little bit of context, 14 years ago, I started a technology company in Minneapolis. It's called Tech Guru. This is where I got, I call it my master's from the School of Hard Knocks, and learned how to run a business by making lots and lots of errors and mistakes. And then I came across EOS. I was like, oh, there's another way. So what I'm going to be able to do for you today is I'm going to share with you some of the common frustrations that I've seen and that I experienced myself, and that you might very well be experiencing, and then share with you the actual tools and the processes that we use in this system to just make those things go away. So maybe you can relate, and if you're writing things down, whatever you do, don't write these things down. Okay, don't write down the frustrations. But those frustrations that I experience and that I've seen, really common for people not getting what they want from their businesses, lack of control, not getting what you want, it's not happening, it's not timely, feel like their business is controlling them, right? That's the name of the talk. Profit or lack thereof, there's not enough of it, it's not consistent, it's not predictable. Some people just hope to start getting profit for the first time. People, all of your people, whether it's your employees, your contractors, your vendors, your suppliers, they don't listen, they don't follow through, they don't get it, they don't understand people struggles and people frustrations. And then to just kind of encapsulate all this together with the term called hitting the ceiling. And it's this feeling, you know where you want to go, you have an idea, you've got this in your mind, you see it, but you just can't get there. And you can't quite put your finger on why you can't get there. So it may be sales, it may be number of employees, maybe a type of product that you're trying to get out. You know what it looks like, but you just keep hitting against the ceiling. And I hope by the end of today's talk that you'll be able to better put your finger on what's preventing you from breaking through that ceiling. And then finally, nothing's working. You've read the books, you've assigned everybody to read the books. You've created the entrepreneurial book club in your organization. It's the flavor of the month, but it's just not working. And you've tried it all. So that's super common. These are things that I see all the time. I experience it myself. And the good news is that what we found through EOS and what Gino Wickman, who wrote the book Traction and put together the Entrepreneurial Operating System, or EOS, found is that to the extent that businesses and leadership teams are able to strengthen these 6 components that I'm about to share with you, those leadership teams can make those 136 issues that people are dealing with simultaneously just fall away and disappear. So those 6 key components, again, from Gino's discovery, by strengthening each one of them, will help you get more of what you want from your business. So I'm going to zip through those 6 key components, and then I'm going to actually go in and share you the specific tools and disciplines that we use, that I use with my clients, and that companies who run EOS use to make those 136 issues go away. So the first component, and what it looks like when you strengthen the vision component in your business, is your team, and frankly the entire company, is 100% crystal clear on where the company's headed, both in the short term and the long term. Everybody can see it, they believe it, and they want it, and they're making it happen. So strengthening the people component is all around defining who the right people are for your business. So here at IWF, there's probably 10,000 different businesses, or maybe way more than that, maybe 50,000 different businesses represented. There are 50,000 different definitions of what the right people are. It's different for every single organization, and part of strengthening the people component is defining and understanding what the right people means to you and your organization. So more about that in a little bit. Then we strengthen the data component, and in strengthening the data component, you get rid of all the subjectives, all the gut feelings, and you boil the entire organization down to hard, cold data, numbers that give you a pulse on your business. More about that in a moment. And then if you can imagine, once you've got a clear vision and everybody aligned around it, you've got all the right people in your organization that see that vision and are making it become a reality, and you're looking at clear, lucid, timely information, you're not going to be able to help it, but you're going to be able to create and smoke out a lot of issues. And frankly, right now, there's an epidemic in issue solving or failure to issue solve. So many companies are doing really well right now, frankly, with the economy, and they're growing, but they're not looking at and addressing the real issues. They're just like, hey, cash flow is good, business is good, well, we'll deal with that later. And so, in other words, it's only a matter of time till they have to deal with it. So getting good at the issues component is identifying what issues are really happening and then solving them, making them go away once and for all. The process component, often neglected, but extremely powerful. And really strengthening the process component is all around writing down and documenting your processes and then getting everybody to then follow the processes. Tremendous value in terms of increased profitability, increased client retention, faster to get new employees up to speed and doing it your way. So more about that in a little while. And we bring it all down to the ground with the traction component. And what this means is now that everybody's clear on that vision, they're all executing on that vision with discipline and accountability, making that vision become a reality for you and for them. So kind of zooming out, big picture. So this is the EOS model. I'm about to dive in. I'm going to share with you the exact tools that we use. And I just want to share with you that when I work with leadership teams and when companies implement EOS, typically we work with the leadership teams of 3 to 7 people. More than 7, it just tends to be kind of too much. And then the sweet spot for this system is companies with between 10 and 250 employees. So while there are companies with billions in revenue and thousands of employees that use EOS, and there are certainly companies with $500,000 revenue and 4 employees, which is my experience, by the way. We started using EOS when we were 4 or 5 employees and about $500,000 in revenue. And it can work, but really the sweet spot is about that 10 to 250. So what I'm about to do now is I'm going to share with you exactly how to strengthen each of these 6 components. And for each of them, there's 2 disciplines or tools that we talk about. And I just want to also remind you that everything I'm about to share with you, there is no theory. This is all tried and true. I've seen it work in my own business. I've seen it work with the 15 companies that I've helped implement this system. It works, and more on that later. So let's dive in. So if you're following along on your handout, we'll dive into the vision component. And the first aspect of the vision component is answering the 8 questions. So if you turn to page to, 4 and 5, looks something like this. So the 8 questions in the vision component help you understand and, more importantly, communicate and agree on where you're headed as a company. So it's not like my company, Tech Guru, didn't have a vision. It's just that if I asked everybody in the company what it was, I'd get a bunch of different answers. So ask yourself, if you asked even your leadership team of 5, let's say, what's the vision of our organization, how many different answers would you get? And more often than not, unfortunately, the answer is you get 5 different responses, right? So the magic is getting everyone 100% aligned around the vision. Okay, that's the magic and the power. And the other thing that's really powerful about this tool, I went to the University of Minnesota, and I took these great business classes, and I built this 80-page business plan, and it sat on the shelf and collected dust. So the power of this tool is taking that incredible vision that you have crystal clear in your mind and writing it down and getting it to fit on just 2 pages. Okay, so the 8 questions are: what are your core values? What is your core focus? What is your 10-year target? What is your marketing strategy? What is your 3-year picture? What is your 1-year plan? What are your quarterly rocks? And finally, what are your issues? So we're going to go, and I'm going to take these one at a time. And we call this the Vision Traction Organizer. And you'll notice that the 8 questions from there are in the 8 sections of the Vision Traction Organizer over the 2 pages. But from here on out, I'm just going to call it the VTO for short. Vision Traction Organizer is a mouthful. So we're going to go through and we're going to answer each of the 8 questions. We'll just go one at a time, and I'm going to try to point out the pitfalls, traps, and issues that people run into when they try to answer these 8 questions, and to help you try to avoid those. So first of all, first question, what are your core values? So every single business management MBA program probably starts with core values. What are your core values? It's overused. It seems trite. It seems like, come on, so 2002. Why do I have to do this? The fact is, core values define a very, very important aspect of your business. They define your culture. And they define who the right people are to be surrounding yourself with in your company. So I'll give you some examples of that. But the thing about the core values is they stem from the leader. They stem from the leadership team, right? And so the leadership team, the first step is discovering what they are. Because actually the core values, they already exist in your organization, whether you realize it or not. And whether you have written them down and named them, they already exist today. And so the power, the discovery here is to write them down and then be intentional and go forward and bring people into the organization, rewarding, reviewing, and eventually hiring and firing around the core values. So what I'd like for you to do, I mentioned this is a little bit of a workshop, hands-on, and I've included a cheat sheet in your handout. And so what I'd like for you to do, first and foremost, if you already have core values, just write down the first 3 in the core values section of your VTO. Just go ahead and write them down. For those of you who don't know them or don't have any, go ahead and turn to page 6. I've included a list of potential core values, and I'd like for you to just pick the 3 that seem most representative of your organization. Okay, and then just go ahead and fill them in. And then while you're doing that, I'm just going to tell you a little story about how when I was working with a client, I went through this exercise with them. We figured out their core values, but something doesn't feel quite right. I was just thinking to myself, these are just the nicest people. They're super nice. And they didn't include that in one of their core values. And it turns out that they were having problems with turnover. They'd hire people who'd turn out to be jerks, and then poof, they would get rid of them. They would go away. But they created this turnover of hiring people. They kept hiring these jerks because they didn't realize and frankly accept that they are the nicest people and they need to surround themselves with other nice people. So part of core values is just owning it and putting it out there. And like another way of saying it is like it's what you reek of. Your core values is just, you can't help it. It is who you are. And so it's frankly why we're all so wacky, okay? We're wacky, and it has to do with your core values. So just embrace it, okay? Embrace the wackiness. Don't surprise people with this after they've come into your organization. Just put it out there. Say, this is who we are. So you got your core values? Already got at least 3 core values? Just 3. Don't worry about it anymore right now, just for time's sake. Just get 3 core values filled in. And then you'll see, we'll come back, we'll use those core values a little bit later. Okay? All right, so that's core values. Core focus is the second of the 8 questions. So it's been called many different things, mission statement, vision statement, all kinds of fun stuff. And we call it core focus simply because it comes from the core. So the core focus is made up of 2 questions. And so the first question is, what's your purpose, cause, or passion? In other words, why do you exist as an organization? Okay, what gets you out of bed in the morning? Okay, what gets your blood boiling, going, not boiling? The second hemisphere is your niche. And that really is just answering the simple question of kind of, what are we the best in the world at? Or another way of saying it, what's our unique skill, our superior skill? Okay. So once that's clear, you put those 2 hemispheres together, and they become the core focus. And with your core focus, it helps you stay laser focused on what you should be doing, and eventually all of your people and all of your processes are 100% aligned around executing on this core focus with absolute consistency. Okay? So again, it's why you exist. It's your superior skill. And what it does is it helps you, it becomes a filtering mechanism. So we're all entrepreneurs and leaders here. We go out into that incredibly huge exhibit hall, and we're like, oh, that thing's cool. We should do that. So what you do then is you filter it through your core focus, and you say, well, is that consistent with why we exist and what we're the best in the world at? And it helps you stop shifting focus and spending time on what we call shiny objects. So everything you filter through the core focus, because let's be honest, when you turn your head as a leader in the organization and you get distracted, so does everybody else in your organization. And you take your eye off the ball, and the whole organization collectively takes their eye off the ball. Okay? So we get to the point, again, where all systems and processes are 100% aligned around making this core focus, executing this core focus with 100% consistency. Okay, so that's core focus. 10-year target is the next question. And we call it 10-year target simply because 90% of the EOS companies out there choose 10 years. But if you want to say 2030, whatever you want to do, 2030 rolls off the tongue nicely, right? By 2030, we will be. So 10-year target, it's a big, hairy, audacious goal. Has anybody heard that before, or BHAG? Big, hairy, audacious goal, and it's incredibly powerful. Okay, it creates alignment around your entire organization in terms of where you're headed. It's an amazing how a 10-year target can become a reality. I've been working with my company. We've been doing EOS for about the last 6 years, and so it's incredible. Like, we are approaching that 10-year target that we wrote 6 years ago. And truth be told, many companies have hit their 10-year target, and it's just, especially when they've started and the company, they're like, there's no way we could accomplish that. And then their 10-year target was maybe a tripling size of their company or more. And they make it happen simply because they made that bold statement. So 2 points. There's a book out there called U Squared, don't worry about the name or the title, by Price Pritchard. And what he argues is that to achieve quantum leaps, you have to put this big goal out there and share it with the world. Okay? And so the quote from that book is, you must focus on ends rather than means. Rivet your attention on that spot where you are to land. Okay, that's what the 10-year target is. It's where you're going to land, where you want to be. And don't worry so much about the means. I have clients and leadership teams that I work with. They get really wrapped around the axle, like, oh, I don't know how we're going to get there. That's too far out. That's the point. it should feel uncomfortably far out. Another analogy I've used, it's like Columbus sailing to the New World. Okay, this is they know they think it's there, they hope it's there, but they certainly can't see it. Okay, so that's the 10-year target. So once you, going back to this quote, once you define what that end landing place is, it magnetizes yourself and in the whole organization in the ways and the means involved with accomplishing that goal just seem to fall into place. The answers reveal themselves to you. The methodologies that you're going to have to take to accomplish that big goal just start to appear. It's incredibly powerful. Not to get all kumbaya on you, but once you do define this 10-year target or big goal, universal laws align. Can't really explain it, but I've seen it too many times to not believe it. And I find that it just takes a lot less micromanagement, a lot less questions about where are we going and why, and things just start to align. Another quote, Get Out of Your Own Way by Robert Cooper. He interviewed Tibetan archers. Okay, have you seen these Tibetan archers? They're the ones that hang off the side of their horses and shoot arrows and hit the target every single time. Pretty cool, right? So the quote of this one Tibetan archer was, and how he visualized this, he said, "I saw the target, then I simply sent my strongest line of energy toward it. The arrow of life always follows the strongest line of energy. It goes where you commit every fiber, every molecule of your being. What matters are commitments of being. These commitments form the unseen channel that guide you toward the results that you desire." And so this creates that channel for you. And when your people, and I've experienced this myself, when your people see where you're headed and how unified your focus is on that goal, they just want to help. They get on board. Really powerful stuff. So the key here is to write it down and commit to it, and we'll talk about how we share it later. And as Yogi Berra says, if you don't know where you're going, it's okay. As Yogi Berra says, if you don't know where you're going, you might end up somewhere else. Okay, so that is the 10-year target. So moving on down to marketing strategy. Marketing strategy creates laser focused around all of your sales and marketing efforts. Anybody interested in improving sales and marketing effectiveness? Nobody? I am. So it's a crazy simple. It's only not even a quarter of the page, if that. I got marketing people that are like up in arms, like, how could you put a whole marketing strategy in a quarter of a page? And I said, yep, we did it. It's all about simplification. There's really 4 questions that we answer. The 4 questions in the marketing strategy. What is your target market? What are your 3 uniques? And then what is your proven process? And what is your guarantee? So I'll break those down one at a time. So the first thing is target market. We just have everyone answer the questions. What is your ideal client? It may not be who you have right now. What is your ideal client? Where are they? What do they do? How do they think? What are their fears? So demographics, psychographics, geographics. Answer those questions about your ideal target market, ideal client. So a funny story or a discipline that one company implemented around the target market is that every single quarter they created this list they called the Dirty Dozen. The Dirty Dozen were clients that weren't fun to work with, who were not profitable, and they just, didn't want to have them anymore. So they would actually do one of 3 things with this Dirty Dozen. They would raise their rates, get them profitable. They would get them to play nice, or they'd fire them. So ultimately, when you create absolute clarity, and I hope that you'll get to the point where you can do this, or maybe you already can do this, gain absolute clarity around who your ideal client is, and then go to market and only bring those types of clients into your business and purge clients that no longer fit that ideal target client profile. Okay, it's key. So at Tech Guru, my IT company, the example that I'd like to share is that we started by doing everything for everybody, and it was terrible. It was terrible. It was just too difficult. and we burned out our employees. We couldn't give quality service that we wanted to give. And then over the course of the last 14 years, we've focused and niched and niched and niched. We're doing less, we're doing more for less types of people. Right now we focus on CPA firms, so bringing the IT service provider just for CPA firms. Kind of a scary move, frankly, to go from providing IT just for any kind of business to now just focusing on one industry. What we've found is like the more we focused, the more value we give, the more we can charge more higher prices, the less commoditized we are, the better we can retain our employees, and just everything falls into place. So it's only taken us 14 years to figure this out. Hopefully it'll take you a little bit less longer. Next question, 3 uniques. So all that I ask for you to figure out here is what are the things that you do that nobody else does, that your ideal customer cares about. Another way of saying it, what do you do for your, who are you to your ideal client, okay? And so it's okay if maybe a few companies or competitors in your market share one of your 3 uniques. Maybe one other company might share 2 of your 3 uniques, but no other company should have all 3 of your 3 uniques. And so the really powerful thing about 3 uniques is it becomes a common thread through all of your sales and marketing efforts. And it helps you communicate effectively to the target customer why they should hire you, and it's things that they actually care about. So there's a story. I've got a story for this one, of course. So mom and her son and their donkey were 100 years ago plodding along through the old country. And they come into a village, and to their great surprise, they're stoned and screamed at, and they get out of there, and they just barely with their lives make it out of this tiny little village. And so the mom is thinking, oh, man, this country must like or prefer to have, they revere their sons. So the son should be riding on the donkey, and the mother should be walking. So as they approach the next village, the son is riding on the donkey, the mom is walking alongside, and the same thing happens. And they barely get out with their lives. And as they approach the next village, they're like, okay, wait a second. This country must really care about donkeys. So we're going to carry our donkey into this next village just to make sure this doesn't happen again. So as they're approaching the next village, there's this kind of wobbly bridge over a small river. And they're, as you can imagine, a donkey, very heavy. They're carrying their donkey, and of course, the terrible thing happens. They slip, fall, the donkey falls over the edge, into the creek, drowns, and dies. So the moral of the story is, if you try to be everything to everybody, you lose your ass. So pick those 3 things and stick to them. And there's actually another great book. Oh man, am I going to forget the name? Forgive me. There's another great book, but the concept behind it is choose to be good at just a few things and be okay with being bad at other things. And like almost be intentional about being bad about these other things. And the story that is shared in the book, or one of the examples, is about Southwest. Got a angry complaint letter from a customer who said that those flight attendants were joking when making those announcements and cracking jokes and having too much fun when doing the safety announcement. And then their CEO or whoever responded like, well, see ya. Go fly another airline. That's how we operate. We like to have fun. So those are your 3 uniques. Stick to them. Don't try to be everything to everybody. You lose your ass. Okay. Proven process. I'll zip through these proven process and guarantee quick. Proven process, it's a 1-page visual that puts your customer's mind at ease about how it will be like doing business with you. You show them in a full-color visualization. It's a sales tool. It helps you communicate to your customer how it's going to be like to work with you. And the reason that this is a differentiator is because most of your competitors probably aren't doing this. Guarantee, this is something where if you can figure out a revolutionary promise or guarantee or commitment that helps put potential customers' minds at ease, that helps them make it easier to buy your products or services. What's their biggest fear, and can you put that at rest? So that is marketing strategy. Here you go, sir. You're going to want that. That is marketing strategy, and the fourth of the 8 questions. And now we move on to the 3-year picture. We're on the right side of the Vision Traction Organizer, or VTO. And really, this is a discipline about getting it out of your head. You've got this vision. It's in your head. It's in full color. You owe it to your leadership team. No, you owe it to your company to get it out of your head and write it down and get it shared by everybody. So Floyd Wickman, Gino's dad, used to joke like, have you heard of this saying, do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying? Isn't that kind of funny? Like saying what I'm saying is invisible, but you want people to see it. The fact is, no, they probably can't see what you're saying. And what's so funny is I actually said this to my kid the other day. And I thought to myself, I'm doing the same thing. So this is how you paint a picture. And you don't have to rack your brain. You just take that picture out of your head and you write it down. So visionaries, we talk about visionaries of companies. They see the future, but it's all stuck in their head, and it's not very useful up there. And here's an example from a book, Made to Stick. There's a study. They brought thousands of college students, university students, and they paired them up, and they sat across from each other at a table. And one of the students in this study had a list of 100 songs. You've heard of every single one, Happy Birthday, Twinkle, Twinkle, stuff like that. And he was instructed, or she was instructed, to thump, thump, or tap that song out on the table, and the person opposite them would needed to identify it without seeing the list of songs. Can anybody guess, out of 100 songs, how many the receiving student accurately got with just the tap, tap? 5? Yeah, it was 6, actually. 6. So this is what you're doing to your people. You're thumping, right? Because they can't see it like you do. So the 3-year picture and this powerful, powerful discipline is just writing it down. And it's also it's a simplified approach to strategic planning. No 80-page long. Have you seen my talk before? I don't know. How did you know? It was 5. Help them see it in living color. So as you'll see, there's measurables at the top, and then you list 5 to 15 just short phrases of what it looks like. 3 short years from now. You owe it to your people, you owe it to yourself, and it's really accomplishes 2 powerful things. By writing this down, you get everybody aligned and on the same page, and it has the second effect of helping with making a clear 1-year plan, okay, which is now on the bottom, the second page of the VTO. Okay? So speaking of the 1-year plan, once again, simplified approach to strategic planning, numbers at the top, 3 to 7 most important things, no more than 7, less is more. We're not talking the 23 most important things that have to get done, just the 3 to 7. What are the most important things that have to get done this year? Okay? We write them down. My clients that take on fewer goals, they just get more done. Those who try to do everything, it's impossible. You just can't get it all done. We only have so much energy. The analogy is that the sun, right, in our solar system, it's blasting billions of kilowatts of energy on Earth every single day. You go outside, worst case scenario, you might get a sunburn, right? Now a laser, high-powered laser, maybe you guys use lasers in your business, can cut through some of the strongest materials on our Earth, just a tiny little bit of energy. Your leadership team is much more like a laser than the sun. You don't have unlimited capital, you don't have unlimited time, you don't have unlimited resources. You have to focus on the critical few and decide what are the few things that we're going to focus on, and then you'll see that you can get them done. So one pitfall I've come across when helping my clients answer that question of what are those 3 to 7 goals for the year is they need to, or they fail to, and I help them agree on how do we do goal setting here at ABC Company. So there's 2 ways that people think about goals, and I urge you just to pick one and go forward with that and make sure everybody's on the same page. The first way of setting goals is like, hey, we're going to aim for the stars, and if we hit the moon, Sweet. That's great. We made progress. Awesome. Methodology number 2 is aim for the moon and you hit the moon. Okay, that's the goal. Like, that's the intention from the beginning. My preference, if I may impart my suggestion, is methodology number 2. Aim for the moon and hit the moon. Here's why. When you aim for the stars and you hit the moon, well, you weren't really like completely committed to hitting the stars anyway. And so when you don't quite hit it, it's harder to figure out what happened. Why didn't we hit that goal? Whereas with everybody being completely bought into and committed to hitting the moon, and you're going to actually hit the moon, if you miss it, you can say, well, what happened? You can actually try to track down the issue and get better at it and figure it out. All right. Both work, though. Both methodologies work. Pick the one that works for you and just agree and commit. All right, and then the 7th question, what are your quarterly rocks? So rocks, what are they? They're just 90-day priorities. Well, why do we call them rocks? So this guy, Stephen Covey, he has this analogy. Maybe you've seen it. There's a cylindrical glass, and you put in the pebbles and the sand and the rocks and the water, and the rocks have to go in first. Otherwise, it doesn't all fit. So the idea with rocks is that they're just priorities. But frankly, rocks is also just kind of a fun word, and it's way more fun than objectives or goals or priorities. Everybody loves having rocks. I don't know, who wants to have a priority? Ugh, boring, right? So what we do with rocks is we create this 90-day world. And so I can't really explain it, but I certainly have lived this, is after about 90 days, people just start to lose focus. They fray. They lose track of what we're trying to accomplish. So we head that off at the pass by creating 90-day rocks for everybody. Eventually, everybody in the company should have 90-day goals or rocks. So you meet every 90 days with your leadership team. You come together, you look back, how did we do last quarter? And you look forward, and what are those things that need to get done this coming quarter? Okay? And last but definitely not least, question number 8, issues. What are your issues? And really, this is just getting out on paper and writing down all the roadblocks, obstacles, barriers, and ideas that are either preventing you getting to your vision and making that vision become a reality, or those ideas that will help you become and help you make that vision become a reality. And frankly, it's just good therapy to just write them down. Make a list, and it takes away a lot of the power that they tend to have over us and over our leadership teams. Just build that list. It's good therapy. I've seen lists with 100 items on the issues list. And what's amazing is just even over the course of a year of just creating rocks and making those issues go away one by one, you see that list get shorter and shorter and shorter. And sometimes they just go away on their own just simply because you called it out. And again, universal forces align and start to make those issues kind of just go away when you don't even realize you're doing it. All right, so that is the Vision Traction Organizer. Those are the 8 questions. And the second discipline in the vision component is what we call shared by all. So now that the leadership team is on the same page, you've written it all down, gotten complete alignment, everybody's answering the 8 questions the same way. The way to get this shared by all is to share it with the company through what we call the state of the company. So every quarter, stand up in front of your entire team and share the vision with them. Anybody heard that saying, you got to say it 7 times to be heard once? It's so true. And I mean, in this day and age with text and instant message, I think it's higher now, maybe even higher. So do this quarterly state of the company, show them where you're headed. You owe it to them to let them know. And then change your attitude from, I told them 3 times. How many more times do I got to tell them? To, I told them 3 times, only 4 more to go. Get everyone rowing in the same direction and just get everybody on that same vision. And that is how you strengthen the vision component. So moving on, people component. So there's 2 tools or disciplines here in the people component. We call them right people, right seats. We'll do right people first. Right people, right seats. If anybody's read Good to Great, is a Jim Collins-ism. Right people means that they share your values. Here come the values back again, right? They share your values. And right seats means they share, or they get it, want it, and have the capacity to do what they're expected to do within your organization. So I'll come back and define that later in just a moment. So what I'd like for you to do is turn to page 7, and I'm going to give you the tool for this, and this is where we get a little more hands-on. What I'd like for you to do is take those 3 core values that you filled in on the first page of the VTO, and I'd like you to just move them right here. And they go across the top, just like this. 1, 2. EOS Worldwide, we have 5 core values, and those are ours. So across the top, go ahead and fill in your 3 core values from earlier. And then forgive me for my crude language. That's not crude language, but just a crude way of describing this. But across the left-hand column, I'd like for you to just fill in the names of your one best person, the best person you got, and your worst person. Just call it what it is. Hopefully your worst person is one of your best. Just fill it in with 2 names. And so this is how we define and determine if we have the right people. It's powerful. It's simple. This is one of the top tools because it's just so easy to use. You can share this with your team. Cuts through the subjectives, cuts through the emotions, and you just give each person 1 rating for each core value. And the ratings are plus, minus, or minus. Okay? So plus means most of the time this person exhibits that core value. Plus minus means sometimes they do, sometimes they're not, a little hot and cold. And minus means they generally do not exhibit that core value. So just take it one at a time. And you can see Sally Jones here. She's humbly confident. She's a go-getter, but she's not too overly confident or cocky. Grow or die. Sally's all about growth, personal, professionally, growing the company. She's fully committed. She's fully engaged. Help first. Man, Sally, she is all about help first. She will put her projects aside and do whatever she can to help you get done whatever it is that you're trying to get done. Do the right thing. She does that every single time. She's all about the right thing. She's committed to that. And she does what she says. Man, if Sally says she's going to get something done, you can just count on it happening, just like the sun rises in the east. Okay? Now, on the other hand, John, not so much. And then George, he's just kind of in the middle. The powerful thing about this is, and what helps you understand if somebody is a culture fit and the right person, is by setting what we call the bar. Okay, so the bar is just what we call the minimum standard for what it would take to be a team member in your organization. So, rule of thumb here, if you got 4 values, half would be pluses, plus, and then half you'd be willing to accept plus minus. There are 3 core values. It'd be 2 pluses, 1 plus minus. In this case, ours is, 3 all have to be pluses, 2 can be plus minus. So go ahead and fill in the bar for your organization. Which ones are you willing to have are non-negotiable? Which ones are you willing to be, willing to work with someone on it? So here, and while you're doing that, I'll give you an example. So it's ABC Cabinetry. They got a big old help wanted sign up on the front door. Guy walks up and says, hey, I want to work here. Give me a job. And the foreman, he's like, I don't think so. We're not hiring right now. And the guy's like, hey, what's up with that? Why don't you hire me? Foreman says, well, one of our values are tough, and you just don't look tough. This guy's a little smaller guy. Well, let me tell you, he says, the job applicant says about how tough I am. I used to be a lumberjack in the Northwest, and I had my chainsaw, and I'm chopping down trees, and I accidentally saw off my entire arm. And it's laying on the ground, and I pick it up, and I'm so tough, I sewed it right back on, and it's as good as new. That's how tough I am. Foreman is like, whoa, I'm impressed. That's pretty good. And so the foreman says, you know what? You got the job. And the guy says, sweet. So obviously smart It's not one of their, oh, did you see? Sweet. Smart was not one of the core values at ABC Cabinetry. Anyway, hopefully nobody hears from ABC. Okay. Anyway, so you've defined the bar. Second part of defining great people is now answering the question, are they in the right seats? And so I said that GWC, get it, want it, capacity to do it. And to be able to tell if somebody's in the right seats, you got to make the seats first. So the tool we use for that is called the accountability chart. You got to make your accountability chart. All right, so here is the accountability chart. So the basic principle of this tool, very powerful tool, is that every organization must have sales marketing, some operations role function, and a finance function. Sales and marketing bring in the business. Operations makes the product, does the service. And you got finance, they keep track of the money, collect the money, pay the bills, keep things moving. Okay? You got to have it those three things for any business to function. There's this fourth major function we call the integrator. Integrator's critical function, and it's this role seamlessly and harmoniously integrates the rest of the three functions and keeps everybody in sync and aligned. We call it the integrator because we don't believe in titles. No egos, check those egos at the door. They're just not that helpful. And the integrator really, the role is to beat the drum, get the results, and execute. Okay? About 50% of the time, there's this one other major function called the visionary. This person is all about big picture. They're always thinking far out. They solve big problems, create big relationships, and they're coming up with lots and lots of new ideas. Okay, so that's the visionary. Couldn't be more different than the integrator. And if there is a visionary in your organization, it's incredibly important that you call it out. Because if there's a visionary and integrator, a lot of times they end up stepping on their toes, each other's toes. That certainly was my experience as a visionary and my integrator. So the powerful thing here is then to fill in for each function, for each one of these boxes, forgive me for going back too far, each one of these boxes, you fill in 5 of the major roles, the top 5 things that each person is accountable for. So that's why it's called an accountability chart, because it makes it crystal clear who is responsible for what and who answers to who. And if you have a visionary and an integrator, you just like divide and conquer. You know, instead of having them step on each other's toes, you say you're responsible for this, integrator is responsible for this. Makes it way more straightforward. The other major thing about the accountability chart is we do structure first, people second. If you organize and you structure your business around the people you have, it probably is you're gonna bring back all the same problems you have today. So you answer the question of what is the right and best structure to carry this organization forward into the future and look 6 to 12 months out. The other thing we do, we talk about GWC. So when you want to answer the question, is somebody in the right seat in the organization? It comes down to GWC. Do they get it? Do they want it? And do they have the capacity to do it? So get it means it's their God-given talent. They're put on the earth to do this. The molecules in their brain are aligned to do this thing and do it really, really well. That means they get it. Okay? Want it means they get out of bed in the morning. They're pumped. They're excited. They want to be the best in the world at whatever this thing is that they're doing. Okay? And the capacity to do it is that they've got the skills, the training, the time, all those things that you can acquire to be able to do this job and do it well. And that is GWC. And so if you can imagine, you've got the function, you've got somebody's name in that box, you've got their 5 roles, you're going to be able to clearly answer, do they get it, want it, and have the capacity to do that role. And so then what you do is turning back to the people analyzer, go ahead and add those 3 things to the right of your core values. So it'll look something like this. Add get it, add want it, add capacity. All right, so only 2 ratings here. It's either yes or no. It's black or white. Either they do or they don't. And what we found is the bar just needs to be yes, yes, yes. If somebody is a no for one of these, sure, you can try and coach them up on it, especially the capacity thing. However, if anybody's got any no's in GWC, you're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to make a people change. And more about that in just a moment. But yes, go ahead and analyze the rest of those people on your team for get it, want it, capacity to do it. And then while you're doing that, I'm going to explain to you the two issues that you're going to face when you start to strengthen the people component. Okay, the two issues are, first of all, you have the wrong person, right seat. So wrong person means they don't fit your core values, they don't fit your culture, but they are in the right seat, which means they're executing, they're hitting their numbers, they're doing it, they're getting it done, right? But they don't fit your culture. So what I'm going to beg of you is to make that hard people decision and RBI, return them back to industry. You got to make that tough people decision because you can't usually change people's core values. They're kind of set by the time they're 12, 13 years old. Very, very difficult to change people's core values. And the problem with keeping those people in your organization is they're eating away at your culture and they're pushing away the people that you do want to have. And they're probably doing it in ways you may not even realize. Second issue you're going to face is you're going to come across when you've got right person, core values fit like a glove in your culture and your organization, but they don't GWC their role. They're in the wrong seat. Seat's too big, seat's too small, it doesn't work. And the thing that I beg of you, urge you to do is ask yourself the question is, how have I failed this person? Because you have put them in this seat. You have failed them. And so once you can take responsibility for that fact, you have a couple of options. Number one, find them a different seat. If your bus is large enough that it's got some other seats that you could move this person into, that they're more likely to GWC, then move them into that seat, problem solved. Ultimately, unless you're running a nonprofit organization, if you don't have a seat, then it's time to help them find another opportunity. And I mean that seriously. When we've had this happen, it has happened. We've had both these issues come up in my history in business. We really do try to line up people's next opportunity. And just because they're not a fit for our core values doesn't mean they're not a fit for ABC Construction's core values or some other company's core values. So that's kind of like a mental fallacy that I had was like, hey, just because they're not a fit and don't fit in one of our seats doesn't mean they wouldn't fit like a glove in another organization. So I've unabashedly made introductions and tried to find and line up next opportunities for our people that aren't a fit for us. So that is the people analyzer and the accountability chart. The only other thing I want to share with you about accountability chart is that you can and do split out the three major functions into multiple. So sales and marketing could split to sales and marketing. Might be two boxes. Rule of thumb is any more than 7 on the leadership team and you start to have diminishing returns. So when you're kind of designing and structuring the organization, you maybe have 2 or 3 different operations functions. Maybe you've got production and you've got maybe installation, something like that. Totally normal. You can split out and have 2 different operations functions. Use your names. That's what matters the most. Use the words that make sense to you. These are just examples and customize that accountability chart for you. People first. Not people first. Structure first. Then fill in the accountabilities, the things that they're responsible for, and the last step is then put in the names. And that is the people component. I do ask, though, that you not go back and fire everyone on Monday, which you have created this situation in your organization. It's up to you. Take responsibility for it and start sharing what you've learned today with your organization and give it about a year. It usually takes about a year for all of this to sink in, and you got to tell everybody 7 times and give them a chance to step up their game, okay? And put them in the right seats, give them opportunity to shine, and just ask yourself, how have I failed them? How have I failed them, and how can you make it right? Okay, so be methodical about this. Don't just, fire everybody. You can do this. All right, and next up is the data component. So from here it goes just a little bit faster. I think I'm doing great on time. Data component and how to strengthen the data component. It's all about giving you a pulse on the business, giving you a status update. Where is it at? It takes out all the personalities, all the egos, all the subjectives, and just really boil your organization down to whole, cold, hard numbers. So the example, of course, of this is you're flying over the Atlantic, transatlantic flight. You're headed to Paris, and the pilot comes on the radio and he says, "Okay, everyone, I've got good news and I've got bad news. Good news is we're making great time. Bad news is I don't know where we are, how fast we're going, or how much fuel we have left because all my gauges are totally down." So if that feels like how you're running your business, then you need to strengthen the data component. Okay, don't fly blind, like so many entrepreneurs are. Or blind optimism, as it is. So scorecard is the tool. Looks something like this. And what's really powerful about the scorecard is you line up the measurables or the numbers, and these are just activity-based numbers that are helping you get a result down the road. So these are activity-based numbers that you can do on a weekly basis. You look at this every single week with your leadership team. And so what makes it so powerful is you can see in the who column, there's an owner. So if one of these numbers is off track, you know which 2 eyeballs to go look at. And the other thing is because it's just so easy to forget, like, hey, what was the goal anyway? That's the 3rd column. You write down the goal. What does this need to be on track? And then the really powerful thing is it only shows week 1 through 3, but in your handout it's got the full 13. You can see 13 weeks at a glance, identifying trends and things that are going on. So if this describes you, then you need a scorecard. If you're thinking 2 in the morning, oh my gosh, what's going on? Where are we at? What's going on? And you then, you're sleepless. You go into the office and you're tapping your 5 people on the shoulder. What's going on? And then you tap the next person. What's going on? Tap the next person on the shoulder. What's going on? You need a scorecard. So scorecard takes a little bit of time. It's a discipline. Can you relate? This guy's just cracking up over here. I love it. Hey, this was me too. Totally. This was totally me. And so it's a time management tool. You put these numbers together. It takes a little bit of time to put them together, but you're not wasting everybody's time and your own going around and asking what's going on every couple weeks. So the way to do this and build your scorecard is to envision yourself on an island, a beautiful tropical island, no cell phones, no emails, no connectivity. And every week, the Cabana boy or girl, whichever you prefer, brings you a card with a set of 5 to 15 numbers on it that give you an absolute pulse on your business. That is your scorecard. So the second discipline when it comes to strengthening the data component, is measurables. And all that measurables are is they're just a number that everybody organization has a number that's being tracked on a scorecard. So measurables, here are some examples. What is our weekly revenue? What's our cash balance? How many sales calls we do? It's all about activity-based. How many sales meetings do we have? It's a leading indicator, right? If we're having sales calls and sales meetings, we're probably going to get proposals. Be sending proposals. How much do we have in closed business? What's our customer satisfaction? What do we do? What do we have in accounts receivable and accounts payable? And how many errors do we have? So just imagine if you're looking at these numbers every single week. And I did a workshop at the AWFS, and we did a hands-on scorecard workshop, and there were 80 different businesses represented in the room, similar industry, right? We're all making things, and not a single one had the same scorecard, completely different. And it was incredible. There were some that were comments or common numbers, right? But everybody's scorecard is completely different, and so the key is to customize it for you and make it yours. Utilization capacity. So that is the scorecard. Those are measurables. And we're about halfway through the model. I find that now is kind of a good time to have everyone just stand up and just do this, trust me. Stand up, do a little stretch, maybe do a wiggle. Maybe like shake that person's hand and say hello this time. Just stand up and stretch. Okay, sit back down, we're good. All right, so we're halfway through the model. No, that's why I had you stand up. No napping. All right, so we're halfway through the model. You cannot go to the second half of the model until you've got the first half figured out. You've got that clear vision, everybody's on the same page, you've got all the right people in the right seats, and you've got timely activity-based data that you're looking at on a weekly basis. You're not going to be able to help it. You're going to be smoking out issues. So the moment that we stop being afraid of issues and are willing to identify them, be vulnerable, open and honest, and actually call out the issues, and then we can actually work towards solving them once and for all, it makes everything so much better. And it works along with the rest of the components. So issues list is the first discipline here. So from the accountability chart, if you recall, you've got teams of people that you've established, departments, whatever you want to call them. Every single team or department will have its own issues list. And you invite everybody to contribute to each of their issues lists. Okay, and then the leadership team has its own issues list as well. And so that's really the discipline. The first discipline is just having that issues list and building it and adding things to it that are roadblocks, obstacles, and barriers to making that vision happen. Open and honest, calling out issues. Second thing is what we call IDS, which stands for Identify, Discuss, and Solve, which is the issue solving track. So as the fable goes, Gino was working with one of his clients, or many of his clients, and of course these are all incredibly smart, talented leadership teams that he's working with. They could not solve the issues. They would identify the issue, and then they would discuss the issue, then more discussion of the issue. And they never got it solved. They just kept discussing it. So out of a fit of rage, Gino came up with this IDS, Identify, Discuss, Solve, issue solving track. It's very simple, and it's just how we solve issues in EOS. So identify, that's first just agreeing on, well, what is the issue that we're solving? And not really moving on. Don't even move to the discuss phase until you are all on the same page, like, yeah, this is the issue, this is the root issue. So you dig to find out what is the root issue that you're trying to solve as a team. Then, and only then, you move on to the discuss phase, and really you're just sharing any information that needs to be known only once. Because any sharing of the same thing more than once, we call politicking. No politicking. So you just put information out there, start throwing out solutions, be brave, and finally, solve. Really, the solve is just agreeing on, hey, if we do this thing, it'll make that issue go away forever, once and for all, never to be surfacing again. And that's it. That's all there is to it. But you have to do all three of the steps for it to work and get to the solve phase. So that is the issue solving track. And by building the issues list and using the issue solving track is how you strengthen the issues component. And now the process component, so powerful, so often neglected. Really, the first discipline here is documenting the core processes. And what that means is identifying those kind of 8 to 10 things that make your business run. So every business has a sales process or a marketing process. That's how you generate the leads, get people to talk to your salespeople. You got a sales process. That's how once you get the lead in the door, you close the business and you bring them in and make them a customer. Got a handful of operations processes. That's how you make the product, create the service, install it. You've got to have a customer retention process. That's how you keep the customers happy and coming back for more. And of course, you've got a finance process, which is how you keep the money flowing, make sure the bills are getting paid, make sure clients are paying your bills. And everybody else then adds maybe 2 or 3 more core processes, or maybe there's a handful of operations processes for how you do, installation or quality, you name it. So you end up with 8 to 10 processes, and I'm not talking about the 129 procedures that's not what I'm talking about. This is a simplified approach so you can see clearly in the organization how each process connects to the other at a relatively high level. We call it 20-80. You document the 20% that gives you 80% of the results. It ends up with 2 to 3 pages per process. You put the whole thing together, and it becomes the ABC way that we do things. Okay? So that's the first discipline, is just simply writing them down. And then the second is having them, excuse me, I didn't share this slide, but I talked through it. And the second aspect of this is having actually people follow the processes. Imagine that. So write them down, and then have people then following the process. Get agreement, get it out of your head, get it on paper. It becomes an amazing training tool. It helps you create a company that's more valuable if these things are written down. I have a client that is in the process of selling to a publicly traded company, and it's because of these processes they've written down, because of these, the accountability chart they've created and all the other work that they've done around EOS, that this company is like, hey, this is one of the best run small companies we've seen. And it made it much more confident in buying that company, that smaller company. All right, so finally, that being the process component, we bring it all down to the ground with the traction component. And the first discipline in the traction component are rocks. So we create this 90-day world. I've already covered this. 3 to 7 rocks for each member of the leadership team. There are 90 days. And then for the rest of the organization, write this down, no more than 1 to 3 rocks for everybody else in the rest of the organization. Make sense? If you do any more than that for everybody else, it's just going to be too much. You'll do damage. Don't do. Yep, I'll repeat it. So for the leadership team of the organization, 3 to 7 rocks per person. For everybody else, no more than 1 to 3 rocks. If you do more than that, you'll do damage. There's just too much going on in their day-to-day to take many more than 1 to 3 rocks. So what I really want to talk about in this point is the meetings. Oh, meetings. Who loves meetings? Yeah, I've got that meeting. Woohoo! So, yeah, you're not alone. I think there's been books written about it, death by meetings, right? It's a thing. But at EOS, we've honed it, we've tested it, we've refined it, and we have created the perfect meeting. I know it's bold, but just bear with me. I think you'll agree. So I'm going to run through the agenda. The thing that makes a great meeting, you start on time, you end on time, you do good work. And so every time you have this meeting, we call it the level 10 meeting. It's going to have be at the same time, same agenda, same place, same team. Everything is the same about it. And you'll see how it works. I'm going to go into it right now. So the first thing, you spend 5 minutes sharing good news, both personal and professional. It creates a great segue from the day, and it's a transition from doing all the in the business work to working on the business. Okay, very powerful thing. Share some good news. 5 minutes for that. And then the next three agenda items are reviewing the 3 most important aspects of your business. What are our numbers? Where are we at? And for any numbers on the scorecard that are off track, you simply drop it down to the issues list, right? Issues list. See how this all comes together with the level 10? You look at the rocks. How are our rocks? Are we on track? Anything off track? Simply drop it down. And finally, people headlines. All the people around our company, customers, employees, contractors, vendors, and suppliers. How are they doing? Any issues, good, bad, or otherwise? Any issues, you drop them down. And then we bring a little bit of accountability to it with the to-do list. And from previous week, we simply say, okay, let's go through the to-do list from last week. What do we get done? Bring a little accountability. The goal is 90% completion week to week. 90% completion of those to-dos week to week. So at this point, you've got an entire hour, because this is a 90-minute level 10 meeting. You've got an entire hour to spend solving issues. You've built this issues list from things that were left over from the previous week, from items that you've added to the issues list through the reporting, and anything else that's come up since the last level 10 meeting. You've added it to this issues list, and now you just pick 1, 2, 3, pick the 3 most important issues. Whatever you do, don't go in order from top to bottom. Never do that. But you pick 1, 2, 3, the most important issue, and one at a time, you identify, discuss, then solve. Add that to-do back to the to-do list, and you go on to the next one. So you just get into this rhythm. Identify, discuss, solve. Identify, discuss, solve. Every week, you're dropping 5 to 10 issues off that issues list. You're making progress. You're getting things solved, making issues go away once and forever. And you just keep moving forward. So as Vincent already said, though, early is on time is late. You have to end on time as well. So when you run out, when you're at 5 minutes left in your meeting, whoever's facilitating says, okay, we are out of time. There's 3 important things we need to do right now. Those 3 things are recap the to-do list, read the whole thing, make sure everybody is crystal clear on what they got to get done by the next week. Make sure they can get all that stuff done. They got enough time. Number 2 is cascading messages. Hey, is there anything that we talked about that we need to tell other people about? Is there anything important that we've agreed or decided on that we need to communicate? Just make another to-do for that. And then last but not least, but very importantly, quickly rate the meeting on a 1 to 10. And so that's why it's called the level 10 meeting. You go around, quickly rate the meeting 1 to 10, and that's a self-correction tool or methodology. So if anybody rates it an 8 or less, the facilitator just says, hey, what can we do to make it a 10 next time? That's all you ask. What can we do to make it a 10 next time? And so it helps you self-correct and improve and learn and grow. Again, we're looking for progress, not perfection. So that is the level 10 world-class 90-minute meeting that you'll have every week with your leadership team. Keep making progress every single week. Start with good news and then conclude. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the big picture. That is the model, vision, people, data, issues, process, and traction. My goal today was to share with you a set of tools that you can literally start using right away. I've shared a lot of them with you. My first goal was to create a context to get you thinking about your business differently, thinking about a business a different way, the EOS way. So I'd like to simplify it even more for you. And we have this concept called the foundational tools. So this I don't think is in your handout. I'd encourage you to write this on one of the notes pages, either the first note page or the last note page. So these are the foundational tools that we've covered. We covered all the tools, but these tools give you, once implemented, 80% of the results that you'll get from EOS is by implementing just these 5 tools. So the VTO, that's just simply answering those 8 questions and getting complete alignment across the leadership team and then across the entire company around where you're headed as a company. Accountability chart, who's accountable to who? Who's accountable for what? Who's answering to who? Who's doing what? Rocks, creating that 90-day world, setting those priorities, making it crystal clear who's doing what, and then coming up for air every 90 days and setting new goals, new rocks. Getting that level 10 meeting up and running, the level 10 meeting with your leadership team, and then eventually with everybody in the organization, and then scorecard. So what I'd ask for you to do, because this is too much to do all at once, pick one. Any one of these tools, if you go back and implement any one of these tools next week, you will start seeing results almost immediately. So pick one, circle it, and that's the tool that you're going to implement when you get back. I want to also remind you that everything that I've showed you today, everything that you have in your handouts is available from the EOS Worldwide website. You can download the templates and customize them to your heart's content. The VTO, all these tools are on the website. The other thing is, too, there's a book. It's called Traction, and it's on Amazon. You can get it. It's $15-20. Everything that I've just shared with you is in this book, and there's additional stories and examples as well. So Gino wrote this book. Mm-hmm. Gino Wickman. Yeah, I'll have this right up here so you can take a look. Gino Wickman wrote the book. It's the how-to version of Traction, of EOS. Okay, it's called Traction. There's a couple of other books, too, to help you with rolling out EOS, and I'm not going to get into all of them, but if you like business fables, there's a book called Get a Grip that is all about implementing EOS, but like a story version. And then there's a book called What the Heck is EOS? So as if you start sharing this with the rest of your organization, it's a book you can give them, help them learn about EOS on their own, The thing that I warn you about with that book is that watch out, they'll read it, and then they're going to be calling you out if you're not doing it right. So, because it's a great book, it's easy to read, it's relatively short. And I just want to share like a quick story. So mid 2014, 4 or so years ago, I went through like a pretty tough personal crisis in my life. And I was very fortunate that I was able to I took 6 months off just to get my life kind of put back together and get back on my feet. During that time, I didn't work at all. Maybe I checked in here and there, but I completely disconnected from my company. And if it wasn't for EOS and having implemented EOS over the prior 5 or so years, there is no way I could have been able to take the time that I needed to do what I needed to do in my life. And there's stories like that. I've got another client. She's been working with me for about a year now. And it'd been a dream of hers. She started a company 8 years ago and never really had been able to take time off to go and do significant traveling. After a year of working and implementing EOS, she took a month-long sabbatical, 100% unplugged. Her email autoresponder was, hey, this is where I'm at. I'm not going to respond to you no matter what you do. In fact, leave me alone. I mean, she said it way nicer than this. In fact, don't try to reach me. Here are the 3 people that you can contact in my company. I'm out. I'll be back in August. So she just got back from her month-long sabbatical with her son, and it was a life-changing experience for her, and she couldn't have done it without having implemented EOS. And then the last example I'll share again from my own experience here, this company that I mentioned previously, they were the incredibly dysfunctional leadership team and ownership group, and through EOS they discovered that the right answer was to sell the company. And that's not, I didn't know what was going to be the outcome. I had no horse in the race, but through EOS they discovered what they needed to do, and they needed to sell the company. So they got clear enough on where they were at and where they were headed that they're literally a week from now they'll closing on this sale, God willing. But they couldn't have done it without EOS. So through EOS, I am experiencing peace of mind. As I like to say, I used to help people just fix their computers. I help them build better businesses and run better businesses. So I hope the same for you. And by implementing these tools, I really feel that you'll get to the point where you'll feel like you're running your business instead of having your business running you. So with that, it's been a privilege and an honor to be here and speaking to you today. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer audience questions. I think I've got maybe 11 and a half more minutes to do that. Otherwise, I'll stick around and continue to answer some questions. But there's great resources online. There's also implementers like myself all over the world who I'd be happy to connect you with if you'd like to share this with your team and have somebody come in and present to your team. They do something very similar to this, and I'm happy to connect you with implementer from your part of the world. I'm based out of Minneapolis. So anybody from Minneapolis? No? Okay. But there's great implementers. Over 210 implementers all over the world, and over 6,800 companies running and have implemented EOS. So with that, thank you very much. Have a great conference. Any questions? Does anybody have any questions? Or go ahead.
Question. So a lot of our businesses, a lot of people in the room probably have businesses where there's a real division between your engineers and your project managers in your office,
Yep.
and then your shop guys.
Yes.
And I imagine like with your business, it's more of the office workers. And I'm wondering if you've worked with businesses that have more in manufacturing.
I have. Absolutely.
Do you have any specific advice for like how far into the shop, do we go with things like rocks? Like
Yeah.
My truck driver, my
Yeah.
shipping and receiving guy have rocks, or is it really more just focused on your office guys, your engineers?
Yeah, no. You get the most out of EOS when literally everybody is involved. That said, as I mentioned, as you go deeper in the organization, they get fewer rocks, 1 to 3. Our version of like line guys or front end guys, they just get 1, and their meetings get much shorter. So they may be in a 15-20 minute meeting every week just to be part of something, see how they're making progress, see how their scorecard numbers are helping moving the big rock forward, so to speak. But yeah, no, I really urge even people who have in the manufacturing space, I have manufacturing clients, to really involve everybody in the process. Just know that it becomes a shorter, smaller for those kind of front end. Does that make sense?
It does. Can I ask you a follow-up question?
Of course.
So the data component, there's a lot of things pop in to mind, in terms of measurables for my office guests.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little harder for me to imagine what we might measure shop guys against production. Do you have any examples?
Oh yeah, there's so much great. I mean, frankly, sometimes it's easier to track numbers for the production side of things. A product shipped, errors, quality measures. I mean, there's lots of good product out on time, percentage on time. Oh yeah, there's lots of great stuff. I mean, that's where especially with sales too, sales and marketing, they're all numbers driven. And what's amazing, there's this story in Good to Great. What gets measured gets done, right? And so Charles Schwab, I guess the founder or CEO or whatever at the time, went into their poorest performing steel mill. He was in the steel mill business at the time. And all he did is on the shop floor, he wrote a giant number. And that was the amount of product that the previous shift had shipped out. And he just wrote a giant number. Everybody could see it. They had to see it. They walked out and they walked in. The shift coming in was like, oh, what's this number on the floor? Oh, that's how much the previous shift produced. And of course they're like, yeah, all right. So they did 3. The next one did 3. Then the next shift came in like, oh, we can beat that. They did 4. And it became their highest performing mill or steel mill simply because they started tracking stuff like that. So yeah, totally. Thank you very much. Great question. Anybody else have questions?
I find, sorry.
Go ahead.
I find that we do a lot of these things, just not in order.
Ah, sure, yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, get back to the office and set this into place and follow these steps. But what other refreshers other than the books and is there, you said there's some people trainers that can come
Yes,
to us.
yes.
Give us a little, what you would recommend going forward next week when we get back into the office. If I'm focused on, we're focused on doing some of these things in sporadic order.
Yeah.
I mean, just stop, control, alt, delete, or pull those pieces in and file them in.
No, so we call it you're a self-implementer. Lots and lots we don't even know how many companies are self-implementing because Gino just has like a help-first mentality. Just put it out there to the world and see what happens. So thousands and thousands of companies are doing some degree of implementation. And I think the most important thing is use the terminology and just use one system. It's really tempting to be like, oh, we're going to do a little EOS, we're going to do a little bit of this system, we're going to bolt some of this on. It just creates confusion and chaos, and your job as a leadership team is to create simplicity, okay? So really specific to your question, I think you nailed it. Get back to your level 10 meetings, run them pure. There's a YouTube whiteboard video, of Gino doing the level 10 meeting. It's like 7 minutes. Have your team watch that video together before your next level 10 meeting. Get back to running them on time, same place, same agenda. There's an app out there called Traction Tools. It helps kind of automate and manage your level 10 meetings. You build your accountability chart in it. It's called, again, Traction Tools, traction.tools. It's not free. I don't make any money from it, but I have all of my clients use it, and we use it at Tech Guru. That can really help a lot because it just makes the kind of the paperwork aspect of Traction so much easier. It kind of automates it. And then some of the people stuff, it does People Analyzer built right into it. It just makes it a lot easier and less stressful and hassle. But yeah, I would connect with an implementer in your community. They may know of meetups of other companies that are doing EOS. So you can hang out. Like in Minneapolis, we have a Visionary Integrator meetup every three months or so. And last but not least, back here in Atlanta, I will be back in May. There's an EOS client conference. So for companies running EOS, there's a conference for that. And I'll be speaking on the topic of using EOS with your clients, actually. So sharing, maybe running like we do with our clients, like involving them in some of the EOS terms and tools. Is that enough for you?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's really interesting to see how we implement these things, but just not right away. I mean,
Yeah.
It's we've got work to do, but it makes me feel good that we implemented these.
Don't throw out the work you've done. Just build on it. When I work with a company that's been self-implementing for a while, I'm like, hey, bring the tools. We're just going to make them better. And yeah, it's all iterative, and you just want to make it better every single time. Yeah, use the tools. How am I doing on time? 4 more minutes. Any last questions? Sweep the room. Anybody? All right. Oh, go ahead.
In a level 10 meeting, what is three in a level 10 meeting workable? 3 in a management team?
Oh, absolutely. There are one-person leadership teams. Those meetings go pretty quick. 2 is. I've been a member of a 2-person leadership team for a really long time. 3 is like we're up to 3 now. I think 3 is a great number, and but any more than 7 just gets to be too much. Yeah, great question. Any others? Everyone, thank you so much. It's been so much fun to speak to you today. I hope you got a ton of value, and we'll go back and implement one of these great tools. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'll stick around for a few minutes. My contact information is in the handout that you received. Please reach out to me if there's anything I can help you with, and I'll always be happy to put you in touch with an implementer in your city.